Ian Morris, welcome to the Great Seeking and Awakening podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Mark. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm honored to have you as a guest. I know that we had a fairly lengthy phone conversation initially, and the things that you're working on and perspectives that you have, I think, could be very insightful for some people. I'd like you to share your journey on who is Ian Morris and what were his first let's talk about the first phase of your life when you were kind of like in the journey mode or the seeking mode. And let's start there and see where the path takes us.
Okay. Yeah, I would say as far as like awakening and spirituality, my first uh experiences with that were through my uncle, Paul Victor Taylor. He is an artist full time and has done a lot of commissioned work. His work has been on like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. He did some sculptures for Ron Rice, the owner of Hawaiian Tropics at the time, and he was a very spiritual person in my life, and he gave me the book on the Ascended Masters, got me into Saint Germain, and just, really exposing me early on to different perspectives spiritually and just emotionally, to start engaging with. So, there was a lot of books that he bought and shared. There was a lot of music and a lot of art that he shared, that I really think was crucial in shaping my awareness of myself in relation to the planet and all the environments that you go through in life. But yeah, that was really the first encounter with that. So that was like the building blocks, of getting started with that.
And where were you physically on the planet, and what age were you approximately when this all started to fold out?
I would say early 20s, like maybe 21, 22 years old when he started sharing this information with me. There was a lot of curiosity, but also seeing that there was 2 paths, like, to really pursue this and to go deeper into this path, there was a lot of when you're in your 20s, you're not really focused on spirituality for the most part, you're focused on having a good time, hanging out with friends, those types of things, and so I could definitely see there was a path, a split in the path that was starting to happen. I think at that time period, there was a lot of times I was really interested in that path, but I would also deviate and go back to that old life, and there was a lot of cross-platform living at that time, and so I had to really, I think some of the dark nights of the soul and some of the different things that come up, they force you to look at your ego. They force you to look at some of your decisions that you're making. So I think that time, like between like 21 and 25, was such a huge part of trying to figure out who I was relatively based off of this information that was presented to me.
Share with me what kind of things were you involved in? What kind of work were you doing? What kind of pastimes did you have? Like, what did you do for fun
Yeah. Yeah.
in that time?
I would say just like what most younger people are, it's like going to bars, drinking, having fun, cutting up, doing things like that. But also, I was really into artwork, I was really into music, and I was just into the creative expression, I guess, is what I would say. But there was not a responsibility in the things that were being created. It was just like, well, this was fun to me, and that's all that matters. And I think the perspectives that were brought forth in the books that were given and shared, and just some of the conversations through his like mentoring, it started making me realize that there was more responsibility involved in creating things that were going to be affecting people through lyrics, through artwork, through music and feeling moods and feelings that you're helping to create. There was a lot of conflict of me just wanting to be me and have fun, be young, or having this responsibility placed on me. And so there was kind of, a lot of growth around that that had to take place.
So you were dabbling in the creator mode
Hmm.
and enjoying it, and that play, if you like, brought you to becoming a fairly accomplished musician, multiple instruments. Can you share your journey there and the types of instruments, the type of music that you loved and that you've maybe worked on during that time period?
Yeah. I was really blessed because my father was a multi-instrumentalist. He played a lot of different music. He dabbled in painting and he could build guitars and computers and work on cars and he was just a very like Renaissance man type of person. And so I was lucky to grow up with that influence in that way. And I was really subjected to a lot of music, like a lot. Like everything from Appalachian music to Led Zeppelin and Tower of Power, John Prine, James Taylor, just tons of bands and music that he liked, and it really helped me to see the diversity of music, and I was exposed to, like, Frank Zappa and, like, progressive bands like Yes and, King Crimson and things of that nature, so there was just tons of exposure to music, and I really had at my disposal anything that I wanted to explore was at my house. There was books, there was records. My dad had like a 2,500 volume, vinyl records that you could just pull from and listen to at any time, and so I was really fortunate in that. So because of that, I started really exploring about 17, 18 years old, started exploring, music and, playing it. So I started off on the bass guitar and then moved to guitar, and then I started playing drums and keyboards, and then I got into, like, Native American flutes and didgeridoos and all that kinda stuff, and I got into tuning forks and singing bowls and just tons of instruments, I started playing Chinese instruments, the, peepaw and the yuchen, and just anything that I like the sound, like hammered dulcimers and cellos and pianos, I think are some of the most beautiful sounding instruments, and so I wanted to explore all of these things. So I just started really my dad got me started on bass and guitar, and then I just kind of took off on the rest my own, just started exploring and teaching myself these different instruments. And so to date, I've played about 28 different instruments. I'm a poet and a visual artist, so I stretch my own canvases and paint and graphic design, video editing, website design, just anything creative. I really love it, and that's my flow state.
So as you're describing that, I'm thinking that the physical Ian that we uh, experience here on Earth is a reflection of your soul, the Ian's soul, which is expressive and creative, and you've been able to tap into that vibratory signature, if you like, of your soul, channel it through your body in the three-dimensional reality, and make other people's souls move using vibration and sound.
Yeah.
You did say Appalachian music. I'm guessing that's regional on the mountain range there. Can you expand a little bit on what is that for those who might not know?
Yeah, so I grew up in Morgantown, West Virginia. There's a lot of folk music and kind of a lot of the settlers there were Irish and Scottish and, different descents had kind of come there, culminated, and there was a lot of music that was developed, folk music or music of the people. So it's a lot of fiddle, not violin, fiddle music. And so yeah, so my dad had a lot of records from that type of music, and he already liked a lot of music, Dylan and John Prine, and just a lot of the folksy stuff that was really being developed out of that and out of the folk rock and more into like the singer songwriter realm. So that a lot of that music he exposed us to in that collection as well.
And did you like attending live performances?
Yeah, I remember the first concert my dad took me to, ironically, was Steppenwolf, and I think I was, like, maybe 9 years old, and so it's just really funny that he exposed me to a lot of music like that. So, yeah, I remembered really enjoying music in all forms, but it wasn't until I was about 17, because most of my life was spent playing sports. I was baseball, I was a pitcher, and that was my focus for most of my life. But when I was 17, 18, I started really picking up the instruments and moving in more of that direction.
Take us now on the journey of bringing it into your current life right now and your current reality. You've shared with me several amazing projects that you've been working on. And what I felt when you were describing these to me in our phone conversation prior is a very strong focus on service to others as the motivation for the type of work that you're doing. Maybe pick a few of the most impactful ones or the ones that you're maybe most passionate about on
Yeah.
this on the projects and initiatives that you're working on and what it means for you and then what it could mean for, the collective.
Well, I think before I go into that, I'll just say one of the things that had such a profound effect on me for the time we have on earth is Steve Jobs when he was dying. The quote that was in the press for a while where he said, I got it all wrong, where he spent all of his life striving to be successful. And he was developed one of the most successful computer companies, people might argue, in history. I still remember there was a picture of Steve Jobs like giving a finger to IBM. Do you remember that picture? It was like him
Mhm.
standing outside of IBM giving a finger to it. And I think it's really interesting because that energy that he took from like taking this idea into fruition and to rival the big people who were at the top whenever he was at the bottom trying to build something. And then to see this quote at the end of his life where he said, I got it all wrong. Being successful is great and making money is great, but if that's all you're doing, none of that is really coming with you. You might learn some things that your soul's taking through that business growth, but ultimately I believe personally that we're here for relationships and the education and lessons involved in all of these relationships, mother, father, sister, brother, community member, foe, even if it's a rival in business. It's like all of these relationships have these experiences that we're taking with us. And I think for me, when I heard that quote from him, it just made me realize time is short. It's a lot shorter than what we think it is. I'll bring up one more thing. Eddie Murphy was in a movie called Holy Man. And in the movie, there's a part where he said, we get 75 if we're lucky. He said 75 winters, summers, springs, so he goes through. And when you start thinking about that, like this Christmas is coming, right? And when Christmas is gone, it's really interesting to sit and think, like, man, I really enjoyed this Christmas with my family and friends.
Mm.
I might have 75 of these. And you puts that in perspective of like really taking advantage of all the time that you have, but then also like what is your legacy when you're moving on from this place? What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want your life to be about? And I think that's what comes into what you just asked in this question is like these projects I'm doing, I want them to be in the new paradigm of business, which is I'm making money so that I can support my family and friends in this process of life. But I also want there to be beneficial synergy between all the customers and clients that I'm building, that they're able to do something with what I'm giving them that's bettering their life and empowering their life in some form or fashion through the experiences I've had, through the knowledge I've built, through the products and services I build. I want them to be of service as well to me, but as well to the community and to the world that we're interacting with. And so I think that to our best attempt, that's what we're trying to do with these projects. And so, with that being said, I'll just say these two. The two that I would choose to focus on is Listening to Smile, which is a unique sound healing company that really focuses on the niche of working with practitioners to build value and to build um, tools and empowerment for them in their personal practices or companies. It's really a unique thing. It's something that we can talk more about later. But then the second project would be the Conceptual Insights group, and it's just basically wanting to work with people to get down to the root message of why they're doing what they're doing, and then also to help them have tools to amplify those services or products that they're bringing into the world. And so it's kind of a creative agency mixed with a executive mindfulness program mixed with functional medicine. And it's looking at the whole person and company and addressing all the things that could be out of alignment or balance that we can help shift and amplify their passion and their mission and their why they're doing what they're doing. And so those are like kind of the two things that I would focus on.
I really liked the description that you gave me on the holistic approach of looking at a company or a corporation as a body of energy, similar, no different than a human. And then what makes that body of energy or that company exist, thrive, what is in coherence, what is in disharmony, and taking multiple approaches or taking multiple views on understanding that entire ecosystem of that entity, if you like, which is powered by humans and the market and demands and products and services, and really going deep, like a holistic approach to diagnosing and creating a path for that entity, the company, to
Yeah.
be able to provide as much value and live up to its potential similar to any human. I believe that our the goal of our human experience is to remember and understand why we came here, which starts with asking the big philosophical questions, and then leaning into that understanding. And it's different for everyone, and there's no right or wrong, but if you're on that path and you start feeling the connection between the all or your higher self or whichever words people use to describe that, and embody that in the physical realm and then be of service to others, that's where the magic happens. So that's kind of the feeling that I got when you're describing this. Let's continue on the community that you're building of experts for addressing companies as bodies of energy and how to help improve.
Yeah. Well, I think, like, I'll just relate this back to music because I feel like in business, the best tool that has served me the most is creativity. And oftentimes, that's not how business people look at things. They look at algorithms and statistics, and they're looking for a certain product or tool to really leverage to create some type of momentum with their companies. But I think what's interesting is like when you look at movies like Moneyball, if you're familiar with the baseball movie with Brad Pitt, where they actually looked at the statistics and they were like one of the first teams that implemented that strategy of looking at something not as a talent based and
Mm,
looking as a all-star to carry the team. They wanted to have a bunch of nobodies that together would add up to something that would be a championship team. And that was really a different way of looking at strategy for any kind of sporting event, much less business, right? It's interesting to start thinking about people who have taken these paths left less traveled and created some type of industry disruptor, for a better lack of the idea. But basically I think like it's really cool to be able to look at a company and say to them like, if your employees are having a hard time believing in your vision, it's going to be even harder for clients and customers to do the same. So, to really focus on the culture of a company, right? To help the culture of the company to be connected to the why the founders of the company started that company, and for that to be a very strong resonance amplification that is then delivered to the third step, which is to the consumer or to the client. And so what I'm doing is a little different because I think just in trying to onboard people, there was a lot of conversations needed to kind of set the page so that everyone could get the backdrop of what we were building. If you have a team that is struggling or a CEO, a leader who's in a role and is feeling brain fog and feeling drained and overwhelmed. You could have a company that 2 years ago was on top of the world, and today they're struggling to make the market or the ends meet that they once were. And it's like it's interesting to say, well, we're going to blame the economy, or we're going to blame this certain shipping system, or we're going to blame this certain product because it's phased out and we've lost our edge, or there's more competition. You can do all of these things. But I think like one of the unique, more interesting approaches is to say, where as a team were you guys 2 years ago emotionally and
Mm,
confidence-wise and health-wise versus today? And could this ultimately be having the impact first and foremost? And so you start laying out tools for them like functional medicine where you could check gut health and you could check mineral imbalances and you could check, neurotransmitters and, tons of information that could come back and bring justification of, hey, you're feeling brain fog because you have a imbalance in your gut that's causing a lot of, issues for your system. And when you start training them to understand that your gut is your second brain and it's affecting your mental health through this interaction, people say, "Oh, I've never thought of it that way." It's a lot of the things that we hear from clients that we've worked with is just people responding in that way. I never thought of it that way or put it in that preface it, of like that could be affecting me. So then you move to the next level, which is getting more esoteric for them. It's like bringing up the human design and gene keys into play. And when you do that, I think a lot of people in my experience, about 90% of people have never heard of this stuff. They don't know what it is. Introducing that in a way that is less woo woo and more science based is really interesting thing to do. So by showing someone a snapshot of all of their strengths, all of their weaknesses, it's a way for them to feel seen. I know when I had one of my Anton that works with us that does these readings, when he did my reading, I felt more vulnerable and more naked than I think I have ever felt in my life because he knew such intimate details about me and my ego and my shadow and my traumas than probably any therapist or any kind of practitioner that I've ever worked with. He was also able to take that and then move it into the strengths I had and to show me
mm.
some of the things that I should be doing in more volume and some of the things that I haven't even uncovered about myself that were strengths. That helped me to lead me in new directions with my career. So you can imagine just pulling together someone who has maybe a little more creative thinking skills and creative aspects of their life that has been doing this for hundreds of thousands of hours of their life moving in that direction and then combining it with tools like these tools of insights and uncovery, is that a word? I don't even know if that's a word, but uncovering, these insights and then these physical markers where you're showing them about their body, their mind, and just kind of the way they're interacting, and then being able to present some options to them of things that you could see that might cause resolve or resolution in some of these things where they're really struggling in. So it's something that's a new type of combination system as far as business goes in that way. And it's a lot of fun because all you're doing is you're a guide, and our company is essentially a guide in the process of helping the hero to slay the dragon, and that's really a lot of fun to be a part of.
It's like diagnosing reality and then facing the truth with capital T, truth of that of the existence of the company, which is a reflection of the people working at the company, what their reality and truths are.
Mhm.
I love the concept of taking this approach, and I can't wait to see it in action. This is a fairly early venture, correct, Ian?
Yeah, yeah. Just started the company. We've probably had it's about 7 clients now that we're working with currently. It's something that came to fruition through all of the work with Listening to Smile, and Listening to Smile is still functioning and will be assisting in some ways, forms, and fashions with Conceptual Insights Group, but yeah, this is a relatively new venture.
I would describe your insights group as the guardian angels of the company, or you use the word the guides of the company,
Mhm,
tapping into a higher level of reality and interpreting that reality into actionable steps or diagnosis for then getting the actionable steps to really truly make an impact that is not only measurable but actually felt by the individuals in that company and by the markets that they serve. Very powerful. That's I,
Thanks.
I
Yeah.
I will be on the sidelines, one of your biggest fans, looking at the progress that you guys are going to be doing. How many people do you have right now? I know that you wanted to pull together like a top, like a team of top performers. So you basically
Yeah.
that's what you're doing is you're similar to that baseball
Yeah.
analogy. You're bringing in the best of the people in different sectors. How many people do you envision being the sweet spot, or there's no limit on the number of consultants that you can add to this group?
I think right now we would love to cap it at 10 people. Right now we have 8 people in the group. And so we're currently looking, I would be open to adding up to 15, but I don't want to go too high. But just because of the management, there's a lot of management that you have to hold together a group of that because every person that's working with our group has their own companies and their own things going on. What we're essentially doing is building a stable of talent that is diverse in its approach to amplify creativity and to amplify business. We have a lot of different perspectives that can offer assistance and also services through this network of people. So there's a central core group that's doing most of the heavy lifting, but you have these specialty talents that you can bring in that I think really diversify what the company can do. But at and the benefit to the people that we're working with, the talent stable, is the back end is functioning as a country club, so to speak, right? It's really functioning as if you need funding, if you need connections into new industries that you're developing and venturing into, if you need help with creating some insights for some of the things that you're putting together as a business owner, they can come and this talent of collection of talent can come to each other and say, "Hey guys, I need some help." And so essentially that's what I'm wanting to do is this front end of the business and the back end. And the back end is this community, this development and empowerment of each other, which I feel like currently does not exist in this direct way. There are, think tanks and there are, manifesting groups and there's these types of things, but a call to action where these people are collectively working on a central project. Think of the Avengers in like superhero Marvel comics. It's like all of them are superheroes in their own right, but they're coming together at these certain time periods to work on group projects, but while simultaneously keeping the benefit of the amplification of some of their solo projects that they're doing. That's really what we wanted to develop with Conceptual Insights Group.
Access to a dream team for a specific purpose in a company to come in. All the talent is there, all the knowledge is there, all the connections are there. Mission is X. Bring in the dream team, execute on the project, get the results, get the company going back to the direction that they should be going, or maybe back on track, or maybe choose a different track, and then the dream team pulls out basically.
Yeah, and you still are left with the core team to service and maintenance and be there for, extra helps, along the way. So, yeah, I think that it's neat to be able to have something like that, and to my knowledge, I haven't seen anything like this, which is why we, wanted to create something like this because we feel like it needs to be in existence.
Okay, let's talk about the sonic work that you do with your business.
Yeah, listening to smile.
This is a very personalized approach to for individuals. So start on when did that idea come to you, and how did you go about developing it to bring it to the marketplace and share it with the world?
Yeah. So in 2012, I was diagnosed with colon cancer and I went through kind of a health healing journey. And I was listening to a lot of YouTube frequency music, and there was some things I really noticed. I'm a very intuitive person and I feel a lot of energy. I started noticing that there was some tracks on YouTube that had a darker feel that I would feel kinda like someone invaded my space when I got done listening to the track with the headphones. And so I started really thinking about what I was letting into my energy field without, like, just being fully trusting, and I started doing research looking at these channels, and there was a lot of channels that just musically, I knew were mislabeled for the frequencies that they were representing
Mm,
because, you could get out an instrument and try to play with something that says it's in the key of C, and obviously you realize this is not correct. But there was a lot of mislabeling of information, and then I also noticed that there wasn't a lot of transparency on the channels, like, themselves. There wasn't an email to get in touch. There was no one saying, "Hey, I'm doing this music." It was a lot of, sidestepping or, like, hidden, and so I that's what initially gave me the first idea of, I wanna start, because I was already playing music, right? I just never thought of music in this type of way of, like, healing and frequency. I just thought of it as, "It sounds good, that's catchy," stuff like that. When I started kind of putting thoughts into this, I said, I wanna create something where I can learn how to do this for people, but I want to say, "Hey, my name's Ian Morris. I've created this music. If you have questions, email me. Let's talk. If you need specifics, I want to make sure that you know the frequencies of each track. I want you to understand why we're focusing on this frequency. And I want you to have open communication with me if you have questions, because you're trusting me with letting me into your space. And I want you to know what the objective is as a business and what me personally, why I'm making this, so that you can decide if that resonates with you and you want to work with it." And so it was just a kind of completely different approach from what I had seen from other people. And so that was really, the birth of it. And I built I turned a massage table into a sound bed just by putting speakers and building a resonance
mhm.
chamber underneath. And then I set it up in the flower of life, well, actually, the tree of life pattern, where all, seven speakers were individually playing different notes for the chakras. And so people could lay on the table and just do a chakra tune up. There was a lot of nights where I would fall asleep on that table with the music just on repeat, and I'd wake up the next day and just be like so high, vibing, like, vibe. And so people would say, "Man, you're so different. You've lost a bunch of weight. You seem like there's all these things are different about you." And so I started sharing about the frequency, and people would ask me to come do an event at their yoga studio, and then it just kept growing. I remember on Daniel Island, right outside of Charleston, we did, some events at a yoga studio, and I remember back to back, like a Friday, Saturday, we sold out the yoga studio, and the yoga studio was like, "Man, this is great. This is awesome. This is so cool that people are into this." And from those events, people from like Australia and California would see it on social media, and then they would reach out saying like, "Hey, do you have like an affiliate program or something like that?" And in my mind, honestly, I was just doing this because it helped me and I was sharing it with people. And the universe, God, had different plans. And so I remember about the fourth time someone asked me if I had an affiliate program, I said no, and I could feel this like knock from, it was like, "Hey man,
Hello.
we're trying to help you out here,
Yeah.
bro.
There's a
We're trying to
clue.
help you out." Yeah.
Yeah.
So I looked into that. I had some really amazing people in my life. My friend Boyd Style. So Boyd Style really helped me kind of sketch out kind of the beginnings of the affiliate program, and then I just kind of took it from there, like, and a lot of consulting from Boyd and just friends that were already in like yoga studios and holistic practices. So I was able to really formulate a good plan and a good strategy for growing that. Today, Listening to Smiles in 16 different countries. We've worked with Cliff Bar, Penn State Cancer Institute, Hospice, Humane Society. We work with the Seattle VA Hospital, and work with a group called Veteran Rights that's in Seattle with veterans with the music and frequencies. It's something that has really grown into its own little niche. And we trademarked frequency minded music because we wanted to really
Mm.
focus on release work and healing. It's not music for entertainment. It's not trying to be catchy. It's trying to help amplify the things that need uncovered and expressed in the human body as it's interacting with the clients and customers. But it's also helping to release and to let go of some of the things that we hold on to as humans.
I love it. There's so many things that you're mentioning. I'm getting visuals, especially on that table with the speakers positioned properly. That's something that I would have tried to do. So yeah, good on you for following that intuition and feeling that is the thing that you needed to do. what is the website, or do you have, like, a central location that has, everything related to Ian or everything related to your businesses? What's that one resource that, you can share with us?
Well, I would just share the 2. So I have listeningtosmile.com. So listeningtosmile.com is for the music and the focus of the frequency-minded music. And then Conceptual IG, so Conceptual IG for Insights Group. So conceptualig.com is the website for the talent stable and the focus of creating amplification and movement and business. And so what we're doing with Conceptual is everything from video editing, graphic design, intro, outro themes for podcast. We work with a lot of different creative elements of like what you would typically see in like a creative agency. But then you just have the benefit of also doing the discovery and the uncovering with the human design and the functional medicine that's paired with that.
So everything that you do or your group does is rooted in an aspect of reality that a lot of the traditional consulting firms or marketing agencies don't even know exists.
Right. This is a kind of a new approach.
I love it. As we start winding down our conversation,
Mhm.
if you had a magic wand and could change anything in the world, what would be the areas you would wave that wand?
Bringing back the voice of the people. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of things that are affecting the world through policies. And I think those policies are influenced by corporations, and the voice of the people has been lost. And I think if there was a way to bring that back. I think that's the start of creating the change that we're wanting to see. I know that I'm not trying to get too political. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm not a I don't know what you would call me. But I think what I'm really looking at is I want the voice of the people and for the underdog and for the unseen to start to make its way back to consideration for the population as a whole, and that can be minorities, that can be the female um, sex that has been overlooked in a lot of ways. I mean, it can be so many different things, but I think ultimately, from a world view, the voice of the people has been lost because of the governments that represent the people have been focused on corporations and money. So I think if one thing could change that would actually bring change worldwide, I think that's the first change. If there was a way for all governments to be stripped of that money that's influencing the decision making and the policy making, I think that could be a start of a worldwide revolution that could be create massive change on a world scale.
I think you cast a spell that's already happening. The rising consciousness is affecting so many things, and one of the things that is being negatively impacted is anything that is built around an illusion or a
Yeah,
duality, right?
yeah, yeah,
Those structures are falling apart, and
yes,
we are entering into 2026 now, and I think that will be the year of truth. And we're referring to the voice of the people. Well, what is voice of the people? Well, that's connecting through your higher self to be able to manifest on this earth the things that you actually came here to do by removing the illusion that's been created.
yeah,
So keep swinging that magic wand, and everybody's going to be doing their part in questioning the illusion, questioning the things that is it really this way, or just because the mainstream media or whatever you want to call it, just because people say something is something, do a gut check on that.
yeah,
What is the reason that they're telling us that a thing is a thing?
yep,
And let your gut guide you through the change. It'll be a little bit chaotic if a person doesn't know what's happening, but if you
yeah,
know why it's happening, just lean into that and just love the show. Like, love the spectacle, but don't participate in it. Just be part of the change. Is there anything that I've missed asking you, Ian, that you would want to share with people in the future as you come across this podcast?
well, I think the thing that people ask me the most is how do you create, like, I feel like I don't have writer's block. It's not something that exists for me,
Mm,
and I'm able to kind of pull on that flow state at any time. And I think for me, I just hope people understand that like 20 minutes a day is like all it really takes to get started on creating that life of creative flow. And so for me, the thing that I suggest to people is meditation. And if you could spend 10 minutes in meditation in the morning and 10 minutes in meditation at night, and then obviously I really believe in frequency minded music as an amplification tool because I was a person who could not meditate and I couldn't sit still. I didn't know how to. My brain was always constantly wanting to make something, invent something, do something. When I started working with frequency music, it's what gave me the ability to sit still and to really go into letting go. I told my mom the first time I did that, it felt like I was sitting in the quiet of the storm. Like I felt peace for the first
mm.
time, and I remember tears coming down my cheek, but I could feel all the stuff that typically would have me going crazy, but it was like I was at a distance from it. I was observing it, but not in it. And I was in that circle of the quiet of the storm where I could actually take a breath and relax. And I think a lot of people are looking for external solutions that are actually internally already there. And so through accessing this meditation state of 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night before bed, just 20 minutes a day, if you did that for 2 weeks and you actually dedicated time to it, you would see a massive change, I believe, in that. So I hope people just understand that a lot of the things that we're looking for are already internally provided to us, and it's just accessing it through these states of letting all the hustle bustle go and setting with ourselves. And I think a lot of people in this day and age, we don't do that. And so it's important.
What happens when you find your center of the center? You're changing your frequency, you're changing your thought pattern, the vibratory signature of your being, and then allowing it and you to press pause and then have an assessment. Like you said, the eye of the storm. The storm around you is all illusory, but the center where it's quiet, that's truth and reality. And if you can work from that center, you're powerful. You can do whatever it is that you set your mind to. For me, the early stages of meditation is when I was doing long road trips by myself. I would find like a podcast or some angelic type of soothing music that I would put on. And as I was driving, my brain relaxed and focused because I only had one task is to keep the vehicle going straight. I would experience it, what I would call like a Zen state. People that have difficulty saying, well, I'm never going to be able to meditate, or I can't meditate, or I don't want to sit down. Basically, just find anything that puts you in that Zen state. And that Zen state is going to allow you to shift that energy and go back to the center. What would you recommend for people that have not yet tried or found their Zen state or meditation practice? Are there other things that they can do entry level?
Yeah. Well, so I love making music. I often tell people that there's times I'll go in the studio and I'll be in there 14 hours and then be like, "Oh yeah, I haven't ate today." I'll just be like
Yeah.
in the flow state, in the zone. And I think that it's so beneficial. A lot of people will comment, say like, "Oh, I didn't think you were as old as you are." And I've had people around me say, "Well, he does what he loves, and so because he loves what he does, it's like it keeps him young." Or I think interacting with music for me is a place where I lose myself, and it is a meditation. I also find a difference in if I'm wanting to create change. I feel like making music and doing things I love where I lose myself to that can be a meditation. But I think like the meditations of like I want to manifest a new life. I want to create healing for my body. I feel like it does take more mental,
Mm,
processing power to do that, and I think more focus on that intention, and that's what I think separates the, like, actionary meditation versus the mentalism of meditation. For me, I feel like when I actually am meditating on what it is I'm wanting to create, whether that's healing in my body or create new business or new customers or manifest something, I really feel like I have to leave the action of flow state to kind of go into the mentalism of tuning in to what that new frequency is that I want, and kind of and realizing that I'm in co-creation with God and the universe. And it's like there's an action step of meditation, but then there's this active mentalism that's actually tuning you in to all of your surroundings and then giving you that functionality of moving in that new direction of healing for your body or of creating more wealth or whatever it is that you're doing. And I think that it didn't really become apparent until this last year and a half for me to see the difference in the two of these. I think I was in that old school where I would say, like, well, I'm doing music and I'm meditating. And I was meditating, but I was also meditating, doing the things that I love and finding that flow state. And so I was like, not seeing the need to do it in a different way. And then recently, I started really doing I love Neville Goddard, but I started reading a lot of his books and, like, listening to his lectures over and over on repeat. And what I think I'm taking away from this last 6 to 8 months of doing that is to realize how important it is for us to hold the vibratory state of what it is that we want and not the complaints or the things that we're struggling with, because it's easy in meditation for those things to come up. Like, let's say, Yogananda had a mantra that said, I am rich, right? And he would talk about how this would be triggering for people who did not have wealth. They would say, I am rich, but then your voice in your head is like, but you're not rich. Like, what are you talking about? Like, your bank
Yeah.
account has $50 in it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so there's this conflict. And I think that when you go into that mentalism state, part of it is actually letting go of who you were, who you are, and realizing where you want to be and what you're becoming, and focusing on that end. Like Neville Goddard calls it living from the end, right? He wants you to project yourself into that house or that job or whatever it is that you're searching for. Maybe it's health of your body. And it's easy for your moment of now to say, but you have diabetes and you're breaking down, And he's like, I understand, I hear you, but I'm asking you to let go of that person from your past and to die and to become the new person that's already there. And I want you to align your consciousness and your vision with the person who's in that new house with a healthy body and is completely free and independent from all worry, fear, and limitation. It's just interesting the fight that the ego will put up to stay trapped in this same way of doing things. And so I experienced that personally. And honestly, a lot of the growth and all these things that are popping up are because I have good friends in my life like Boyd and different people who will, say like, hey man, revisit this book. Hey, check out this video, hey, and it's like keeping your mind on the task of where you want to be instead of where you are or where you've been. And I think that to me is what meditation is. Meditation is the act of letting go of the past and sometimes even the present, and really
Yeah.
focusing on the end result of what you want. And I know that's very different because a lot of people say, live in the moment of now. And I think if your moment of now is not where you want to be, why are we focusing on that, right? We want to focus on the goals that you're accomplishing and the living in the end, and then basically watching that start to change. Because I'll say this to wrap this up. I remember there was one of the lectures where Neville said, when you're complaining and you're going into those complaints and sharing that with people, all you're doing is praising the enemy. And I remember that sticking with me like so deeply of like, wow, I never even thought of it in that way. And so he was saying that you have to let go of that and focus on the new Ian or the new person that you're wanting to be. So for me, I think meditation is really crucial in holding the frequency, holding the vibration that you're wanting to achieve, instead of just keep reiterating, all the things that went wrong, all the things you're fearful of, all the things that could go wrong. And that's the way that the brain, it's wired to find the threats, and it's wired to help you stay alive. And so you have to realize that when these thoughts come up, these are not your thoughts. This is your brain trying to keep you alive and safe, but it's going to constantly be looking for threats and fears and limitations, where your soul and your higher self are really here to help you complete a mission. And so there's two different entities working here. And I think meditation is such a crucial tool for us to help really clarify what this voice that's being brought up, is it mine? Is it relative to where I am and where I'm going? If it's not, let's let it go. Let's cut it off. Snip, 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 and let it go and keep moving on where we need to go. So that to me, that's what meditation is.
So much wisdom in that last rant. I like the concept of you said projection. So if you think of your mind as a projector, or your body is the interface of your source consciousness blending with your thoughts and your feelings through this projection in this reality. And if you're aware of that in the thought or feeling stages, which could be in a meditative state, identifying, is it your ego that is thinking? Is it your higher self that is inspiring you? Or is it the dissonance created by the false matrix or the illusion that we are living in? You're 100% correct. There's so many voices trying to compete for that projection. And if you're aware of what they are, then you could focus the projector with the voice that you want that's going to project that future reality.
So yeah, thanks so much for having me, man. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, and my personal goal is that in the near future, you and I actually get to meet in person at some point.
Yeah, 100%. That'd be really awesome to do.
Ian, thank you so much for being authentic and real and sharing some of your insights. I recognize you, I see you and your higher spirit as a powerful entity really doing the job that you came here to do, which is creating impact and making a difference for people. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you again, man.